Hi, welcome. I'm Mia Bays and I run Bird's Eye View, and this is our second in our Women Make Film special. So delighted to be here online and active while our beloved cinemas are closed. Normally Reclaim the Frame is very active as our ever, bringing ever greater audiences to films by women. Normally we're in cinemas, but obviously we all know that they're closed at the moment. And we're going to welcome one of our cinema partners to do an introduction soon. So to introduce the session, I'd like to hand over to Kate Muir. Kate, lovely to see you again, as always.
Hiya. I'm really glad to be talking about this second bit of Mark Cousins' amazing documentary, Women Make Film. The second tranche is up on the BFI Player this week, isn't it? And it is a smorgasbord of female film. I think there's 183, 184 directors, and it's divided into chapters. And what's great about it is it's about the work, and that's kind of what we celebrate at Bird's Eye View too. Women's work, what they do, what they've created, and from the female gaze. So I'm really pleased we've also got three of our favourite directors that have done Bird's Eye View work with us here today. So I'm quite excited about that.
Yeah, so shortly we'll be welcoming three Reclaim the Frame directors who we, well, I'm claiming them as ours. They're obviously fabulous directors in their own right, but we were very blessed to be touring their films. So we've got Tinge Krishnan, who did Been So Long, which you can see on Netflix, starring Michaela Cole and Arinze Kene. We've got Deborah Haywood, who did the glorious Pincushion, and we have Jeanie Finlay, who directed the wonderful SEAHORSE, the documentary about Freddie, who gave birth to the trans dad who gave birth to his own child. And so we'll be welcoming them to talk about, unpack what they feel about Women Make Film, having watched a couple of episodes, specifically getting their perspectives as directors and the impact that seeing this work has on them. And then we're going to talk together as a group. We'll go one by one, and then we'll bring everyone back together, and we'll take audience questions. So please send us comments or questions. I'm very happy to open this up. So first of all, I think, so actually, Kate, what we did want to do is express solidarity. So shall we just express our solidarity with what's going on at the moment? Kate?
Yeah, we were just thinking with Black Lives Matter and the demonstrations that are going on in London and throughout the world, I hope peacefully today. We were it's very important for us to talk about Black female filmmakers. We always have done, we always will. We had Matty Diop with Atlantics, earlier in the year. But one of the people who's in Mark Cousins' film is Ava DuVernay, who's the great Black American director. And of all the people that's worth looking back at today, I think it is her. And she did that wonderful film in 2014, Selma, and was nominated for an Oscar for it. And she's also done 13th about prison system and African-American men in America. And more recently, a drama documentary really on the Central Park 5. And so it's really worth maybe us celebrating a bit of Ava DuVernay today too, I think.
Yes, absolutely second that and express solidarity with everyone, as you said. And everyone who's, as we all are, energized by what's happening in the US. So before we actually get into our session, I would like to welcome in Anna Navas. And Anna runs one of our beloved partners, the Plymouth Art Cinema. Obviously in Plymouth, as the clue is in the title. And we love coming to Plymouth, and we haven't been for a while. I can't remember the last time. Was it March? I think we were last there.
I think it was March.
Anna, we've been partnering together on this since the beginning. So actually, you've played all the films of the filmmakers we're about to welcome as well. So I just wanted to say, yeah, our hearts are broken that we're not touring, but at least we can speak like this. We can see your lovely pink rinse. So Anna, yeah, I just wanted to give some space to you to do a shout out about what you're doing and what this means to you.
Yeah, thanks ever so much for inviting me along tonight. Reclaim the Frame has been a really big part of what we've been doing in the last few years, just to try and amplify the voices of women in film. It feels like a really important thing to be doing. It's always been important, but it feels like it's just become so much more vital to have diverse voices on screen. And for places like us, down in Plymouth, we're sort of down in the extreme southwest of the country, and it's one of those places that's kind of bypassed and forgotten, and so we don't often get directors or filmmakers and screenwriters coming down to introduce films. So partnering with Reclaim the Frame has been a really important part of bringing those voices to our audience, and our audience is really, really interested and engaged. And it's quite easy to forget that there are these, you know, really wonderful audiences beyond the big cities. And so I just think it's amazing that Reclaim the Frame has managed to galvanise so much interesting work and interesting people to come and travel around and bring more films to us. It's really valuable, actually.
Wonderful, thank you, Anna. And then Women Make Film, you've watched. So there's 2 episodes up on BFI Player now. You've watched some of it, haven't you?
Yeah, I've watched I watched a few hours of the first one. It's kind of interesting. It's 14 hours long, and when I first heard that, I was thinking, how is anybody ever going to have time? Who knew? But I watched about an hour and a half of it, of the first episode, and it's astonishing. And I think what I love about it is it's so you instantly realise it's non-hierarchical. It's not about making lists and best of, and so it feels like an incredibly refreshing way of just looking at amazing filmmakers. The only thing that I'm really struggling with is, I think you said there are 182 filmmakers who were discussed and talked about in the series, and I'm going to want to watch all of those filmmakers' work, and I know it's just going to be a lifetime's work watching that. But how amazing that somebody has been doing this work to excavate these really vital histories. You know, I think we live in cultures where the canon is decided by the gatekeepers, and I think it's really time that we stopped thinking like that. And so I think for Women Make Film, it just feels like an entirely refreshing way of just exploding that canon and trying to change the gatekeepers. So,
Yeah.
you know, I feel incredibly grateful for it, actually, particularly now.
Yes. A woman to that, Anna, thank you. So lovely to see you.
Thank you.
The other word, I would just, bye. The other word we were talking about all last week in this is mistress piece instead of masterpiece, and we've got to remember that when we're talking about these films. And I was just thinking that you know, this 14-hour film, you could basically do a university degree just watching those films, couldn't you? And it would change your life completely because it's so global and it's 6 continents. And I'm just astonished. And I was a film critic for 8 years. How little I know of some of those directors, particularly the ones from 60s, 70s, earlier ones, and it is astonishing, and it's of such high quality what is out there, and you just you just like huge bag of sweeties, and they keep coming, and you don't know what to do. It's an amazing experience, and you can dip into one of the 40 chapters.
Yeah, and I think, big part of what we're going to do next is figure out enable people to see the films, or at least point people and where they can see the films, which is obviously quite a big job. I mean, actually on womenmakefilm.net, the website connected to the film, there's a whole list of there's a great resource, which is everything featured. But then you want to know how to see them. And that's where it gets complicated. And I was staggered, actually. Deborah, who you'll meet soon, and we were talking about Sweetie recently, Jane Campion, and I realised you can't see Jane Campion's two, Sweetie and Angel at My Table, are featured in Women Make Film. You can't see them in the UK.
Yeah,
they're not available.
But you don't have them. No, you can't.
They're not available. So even the big names, you want to go and watch the movies, and you think, wow, why are these films not available? And so that's a whole other area of discussion, like who curates rights, distribution, archiving, you know, that's a whole massive part of this narrative as well.
36 of the films are on the BFI Player, aren't there? Which is a good start. I mean, people can get on and try and see if they can find the rest on Amazon or wherever, or Mubi. Yes. But you're still no way going to be able to mop them all up, particularly the older stuff. Another thing I suddenly was thinking about also today when I was thinking about Black women directors was Julie Dash and Daughters of the Dust, and that being the first sort of major distribution of a feature by a Black woman, and it was only in 1991 or something like that. I mean, it's really, really recent and kind of shockingly recent in that sense, and that's a good one to look out for too. So terrific. Yes.
I would also shout out Sarah Maldoror, who did Sambazanga, which I discovered because of this, because of the documentary, and who did that film in 1972. Stunning piece of work, Angolan French, and she just recently passed away through COVID-19. So you know it's so important that women like that are and these kind of pieces of work are preserved. You know, I feel really impassioned that the only way you can see that film is in a bad copy on YouTube. But it's thanks to great work of actual archivists who at least have put it in there and made it available to people to see. But you know, it should be preserved with much greater care than that. It should be in every archive in the world. It's a really significant movie, and so yes, I agree with you. You know, there's so many firsts that just happen so far too late, and we're still not taking the care that we need.
I'm also interested to see how professional directors react to Mark Cousins' film, because you know, I learned so much about technique and tracking and XY axis and all these kind of things. Lots of things, unless you've been to film school, you know, you wouldn't pick up. Lots of things that critics don't know. And it was a real education for me. And I wonder what particular things they learned from watching this. What were the sort of knockouts?
Yep. Well, we'll shortly find out. But Kate, let's first, for those who haven't seen Women Make Film, we'd just like to run the trailer first, and then we'll bring in Tinge Krishnan, our first director. So if we can just run the trailer.
Most films have been directed by men. Most of the recognized so-called movie classics were directed by men. For 13 decades, and on all 6 filmmaking continents, thousands of women have been directing films too. Some of the best films. What movies did they make? What techniques did they use? What can we learn about cinema from them?
Form and content, violence and tenderness, love and loss.
We have seen the world.
Hundreds of great examples of cinema. 14 hours on the road.
The films we looked at have far more female protagonists.
Far more women at the center of the movies. Hooray for that.
Women make movies, great movies. They've done so since the birth of cinema.
They've helped define the anarchic, androgynous rectangle.
The movie screen.
There are surprises in what follows. Let's start at the beginning.
Okay, let's bring in Tinge Krishnan, who directed Been So Long, which we love touring. It was such a pleasure.
Hiya, hey,
welcome.
Nice to see you. Hi.
So let's start with actually, so you've been really busy actually doing series since you haven't actually done another film since been so long, but you're really busy directing, right? And it must be quite let's just dispense with how the hell are you working at the moment? It must be a challenge.
Well, I was shooting in Mexico, and our shoot got pulled. We'd done about 3/4 of my episode. I was working on the Mosquito Coast. They're doing a series with Mosquito Coast, the Paul Theroux novel, and we all went back to our own countries. And so I ended up doing the edit remotely, and that worked really well, actually. So the editor was in New York, and I think you realize how much you can do remotely, which is really good. I mean, currently the DGA's put out a white paper, looking at how, what the practicalities of working in a COVID environment might be to keep it safe. And another production company that I'm working with has put together a protocol. Involves things like having separate pods, and having people not crossing over on set, having base camp not crossing over with set, and storing stuff in lockers that maybe open once every few days. So I think slowly there are some productions going back. And I think it's a question of just everyone feeling their way into it and seeing how it can be managed on a practical and safe level.
Yep. Well, I'm so proud of you being really busy. You've been back to back, haven't you, since been so long?
Yeah.
So let's get into Women Make Film. Oh, sorry.
I just wanted to work with Michaela Cole again.
Not at the moment, but yeah, that'd be fun.
I hear her new series is supposed to be absolutely knockout.
Yeah, I bet it's brilliant. Is it out yet?
No, about to drop soon.
Oh, brilliant. Can't wait. Can't wait.
So Tinge, Women Make Film, you watched it recently. You've watched the first episode at least. So as a director, as Kate was saying, we can't wait to hear what, as a director, it was like.
Yeah. It was amazing. I mean, I'm really grateful to the people who made it. It's such an incredible job they've done in terms of curating it and breaking it down into levels. It relates directly with craft, so as a filmmaker, it's incredible. It's almost like a Bible. And I found when I was watching it that I actually forgot that it was in this whole context of women filmmakers. So it just felt like, and I didn't go to like a really official film school like the NFTS. I did a course at NYU, which was like a short course, a 10-week intensive filmmaking course. And we didn't do any film theory. We just got out and we shot stuff. So I've always felt a bit kind of inadequate in the whole area of film theory and knowledge of films and the canon. And in some ways I was saying to Mia earlier that actually that's quite helpful, because I felt like I was just being exposed to the canon, and the fact that it happened to be female women filmmakers, didn't feel it kind of helped. I didn't realize how much I had unconsciously been seeing myself through the lens of being a female, like a so-called woman filmmaker, and the baggage that may carry in a patriarchal environment. A certain sense of insecurity, a certain sense of not trusting my instincts, or a certain sense of shame. And so what I found being in that context was remarkably freeing, because here I was learning from maestros, and then every so often I'd be like, oh, they're all women. It would come back to me, or I'd think, oh, I wonder if they're going to reference, I wonder if they're going to reference Peter Weir here. And then I was like, oh, no, because he's a bloke and they're all women. So that was really, really helpful. And I think what would be great, because I think it what's really interesting is that Mark Cousins and his team, they have a really interesting eye, so as a filmmaker, I'm often kind of consulting like best of lists, if I'm, doing been so long, and you're like, well, the best of strangest meet cutes, or the best of endings, or the best of showing someone in pain in a film. Do you know what I mean? You're just, you know what it is like when you're late at night and you're thinking, I just want to see like some samples of something. And so then you're kind of at the mercy of, not at the mercy, but like the gratitude of YouTube curators. Yeah. And they don't all have the same aesthetic and or the same, you know, and I bless them, and they've been hugely useful to me. But there's a different, there's definitely a different perspective that you get with this piece of work. And you know, it's just because and what's in, you know, this idea of there being like a film history, there's a forgotten history, but what I realized, and I got really present to, is there is a long lineage of maestro female filmmakers, like going back to the silent movies. It's not that there isn't a history of it, there's a forgotten history of it. And so this is a remembering, and once it's been remembered, it can't be unremembered. And so for my daughter growing up, she's going to grow up with a different canon, which I think is amazing. And that's going to include women, and that's going to empower her without a doubt. So I just feel, and it empowered me. And I was saying to Mia that part of the reason, I think part of me had kind of checked out of the so-called canon anyway, because it does feel quite masculine to me. And there's this kind of weird teenage rebel in me, and I'm a bit like, well, fuck it then. I'm not going to see your fucking movies. I'm going to make my own ones. I'm going to make them how I want to. And there's a bit of learning that I miss out on in that process. And in this, I'm suddenly able to embrace things on a whole different level. And I hadn't realized how feeling, you know, how that dynamic had been playing out in my relationship, to, you know, like, and that sometimes when you see, you know, there is a little bit of an anarchy. I don't know if this is maybe this is a generalization, but sometimes I have on occasion witnessed like a kind of anarchy, quite masculinized, train spottery, like Boise filmmakers get together and they're like, oh yeah, and that film and that film and that film and that film. And part of me's checked out of that because I judged it to be this kind of masculine activity. But actually suddenly I'm like, actually, this is quite fun. You know, it's not that I don't sit down and, you know, forensically go through shots by male filmmakers. I do that all the time. But it's a different weird sense of joy in experiencing this, and a sense of liberation, you know, and just seeing the use of tracking shots. I hadn't really clocked Antonia Bird's incredible one-shot opener in Face, you know, and just like all the way through. Basically every little vignette just gave me something really powerful of learning. I've practically noted down the whole thing. So my only thing would be to say, what would be really useful would be to have notes to go with it, or like a kind of a sheet, so that you could actually navigate it as a filmmaker. So, you know, so
the website has a huge, have you been on the website? It's fantastic. You can click on each section and it gives you 10 films that are in there with the date. And really covers everything. It's a great website.
Oh, brilliant. And does it have all the categories? Because that's what I find really, really helpful. So like, because the ones I saw, you know, it had intro to character, tone, believability, meet cutes, and then you can, it's just genius. I really loved it. And I found it incredibly empowering and freeing as a filmmaker to watch this. I actually could feel my game develop a bit from watching it.
That's fantastic. I was just thinking what you were saying there is one of the things I completely loathed about film is the way people make top 10 lists all the time.
Yeah.
And it's a very sort of, it's quite a manly thing, the top 10 list. And something about what you were saying there, and there's something about Mark Cousin's eye and the women he's worked, that there's something very generous about the way he looks at every film, and there's something very curious. Yeah. I'm opening to this, I'm opening to that, I'm going to Iran, I'm in the Sahara, I'm in Ireland. You know, he has a real kind of universal humanity to his eye, I think. And I also did in the Story of Film, his 15-hour documentary. And I think that's important, that's exactly what you're saying, that there's this level and we're not elevating one above the other, because all these individual bits that are making up this huge sort of sisterhood. And it's a really lovely feeling just to kind of watch that.
Yeah, I think that's a big part of it, because I think craft is about curiosity, and creativity is just about it's this simple, joyful curiosity and explanation. How can I do this? How can I do that? How can I create this feeling? How can I conjure up that feeling? You know, and I think this whole idea of like the hierarchy of good and bad is a kind of, it's an after thing that comes from, I guess it's society's way of maybe just trying to interact with it in a way that can make it manageable for society on many different levels, you know, whether it's like, I'll do a top 10 because then it will make it easy for me to decide what to see, to actually maybe we can just slightly control the output a bit. You know, we can control what's deemed acceptable, and that works on conscious and unconscious levels. Whereas, yeah, the feeling of this piece of work is really about just interacting with incredible scenes and unlocking what it is that's making the scene. There's a very interesting thing they do where they talk through the tracking shots, where it goes, now they're tracking in, now they're tracking left. Now we've got a shot of a face. Now we've got a two shot. Now we've got a single. And something really interesting as a filmmaker, it's a bit like when you read out lines of dialogue, there's something about just expressing it. Now I'm seeing a close up. Now I'm seeing a wide. Now I'm seeing a two shot. Now I'm seeing a close up. Now I'm seeing a POV. And it starts to, it's a really interesting way of examining something and processing something. So yeah, I've learned a lot from that, and just the depth they've gone to, you know, discovering, like, you know, there's people, there's people that I've never heard of, which doesn't mean, you know, that's not a thing, because I'm not like, you know, I don't know everything anyway. But you know, but there's you know, filmmakers that I'd not heard of at all, and I'm just really excited to have heard of them. And the fact that there can be someone that you've never heard of that makes such powerful work is really interesting, and it kind of throws the whole notion of top tens. It throws the whole notion of awards and BAFTAs, and it's like when my brain goes, I don't understand why, you know, at the time, why is Tilda Swinton not getting nominated for We Need to Talk About Kevin? Why is Lynn? I don't understand why Lynn didn't get nominated for that, because it was amazing. You start to see, actually, it means nothing in many ways. It means everything to a kind of consumerist approach to art and creativity, but it means nothing to the intrinsic value of it. And that's what I got from this. I didn't know where anyone was coming from, where they sat in whatever context, but the work and the power of it spoke profoundly and taught profoundly. So I don't know if I'm talking too much. I'm quite excited.
Although, so maybe what we'll do is we'll just put you on pause.
Yeah, I do.
And then we're going to bring you back at the end. So
absolutely. Okay.
But love for that. Amazing.
Yeah, thank you.
See you again soon. So now we will bring in Deborah Haywood, otherwise known as Dux.
No.
In the right accent. So Deborah did the stunning and beautiful, moving Pincushion, and we're very proud of Debs. And you went to every single event that we did, and you did a ton more. And Pincushion was, what did it knock off at the Odeon swaddling coat? What did it knock off the top?
Impossible.
Squad came out for you.
It did.
And we even made pincushions.
What, Ducky?
In Manchester, we made pincushions, didn't we?
Yeah.
It was very cathartic, wasn't it?
I love
making those pincushions.
I want to go back and do it again.
Okay, we'll do round. Yeah, we'll find a reason to do it.
All right.
So Debs, what was it like watching women make film for you as a director?
Just crap. No, sorry. It's because Mia, I want to misbehave because, like, you're there.
You can't. You got to behave. You're grown up.
I know. No, I really, really loved it, and also, I hadn't heard of half of those women, and I thought that I'd, you know, is it seeked out or sought out like loads of women's films, and I'm always, you know, thinking that I'm like, oh yeah, I know women's films, but I realised that I knew nothing, or there's so much more to know. And so I really loved that. And I just loved also, because like when it was like, I was like, oh God, I hope this isn't going to be patronising. It's like, oh, look what the women can do. But then actually it wasn't patronising at all, which, obviously it wasn't going to be. But I just loved the way that it's organised, but also I just loved the ambition of everything, and I was really surprised by it. And I was like, oh my God, this is like, like you get the impression of like women making films that are just so personal, or that are like so small, and it's very small, but some of them are just so ambitious or surreal, or in the storytelling, or in the way that they're made, or they're shot, or so I was just like really inspired, and I was like, you know what, this has made me feel like braver, and I want to push it even further. And also it didn't feel like a masculine world that I was in. It felt like a world that I recognised, and it made me realise how alienated I am watching films by men, about men. And it also excited me, because it's like, you know what, the narrative is not dead. People like always say, oh yeah, films, you know what's going to happen, it's so formulaic, and then you're watching that, you're just like, oh my God, I'm like, just like, I don't know, there's just like heart going inside you. It's like a massive vitamin pill. But and also I learned that new word called punctum, and there was like punctums all over it, which is apparently like something by that bloke, somebody, I think it's, Roland him. I actually had to go and buy the book. Can you see it? How'd you say it?
Barthez, I think.
Oh, him anyway. But anyway, I'm all over that. And no, I don't know what I was saying now. What was I saying?
You were on punctums.
Oh yeah, so punctum. So I realised that like loads of the stuff I was watching, I get more punctums from the women's stuff. And I do think, like, I had this suspicion when I was making Pincushion that there's a different grammar for women filmmakers, and this kind of confirmed that there is a different grammar, and it's more, I don't know, I just feel more accessible, or I feel more at home. I don't really know how to explain it, but I just don't feel like jarred and alienated from it. I feel welcomed and embraced, and like fluid. I can go fluidly through it. But yeah, so what I would take from it, apart from like watching that bloody Mother Germany, what was it, Pale Mother Germany, oh my God, I'm still with her now. She's still like, she's in my bones somewhere rattling around. But yeah, no, that's what I'll take from it, the ambition and the accomplishment, and the fact that all these women, and from countries that you don't expect to, because you think, a woman wouldn't be allowed to make a film there. They've gone out and done it, and they've found a way. And yeah, I don't know. I just hope that it's going to be taught in film schools, because I haven't been to film school, but this is a bit like a film school. But also I have been to loads of workshops, and whenever I go to a workshop, you get the same old, like, you never get shown a script or a film that's by a man. It's always clips by a woman. It's always clips of male films, male protagonist, male script writer. And what that gives, I think, like in schools, or if you're doing it at A levels or whatever, it's like subliminally it's saying that like women aren't making films, and this shows that actually they are. So I hope that it will be a resource that can like open it up, not just for us now, but for our daughters and granddaughters, and because it does feel like a discovery.
Yeah, I think you're right. And one of the things I noticed is the way that it's not about sort of female intimacy necessarily, and you'll get women making war films like you were talking about, Germany, Pale Mother. You'll get Larissa making The Ascent, which is an incredibly strong film about, two men in the snow, death. It could not be more kind of traditionally kind of Russian and sort of manly in lots of ways. But this is what she's doing. And also the work of Catherine Bigelow, which I sort of hadn't really connected up till I watched this.
No, I
didn't either. Kind of see Point Break and The Hurt Locker, and things like, you know, Point Break, she's got 40 shots in 1 minute, you know, of a raid on a gas station. And you're just thinking, oh, wow, you know, this is real hard-end filmmaking. Totally, I respect that. And so I just sort of opened my mind to that I hadn't noticed.
Do you know what I want to, and I can't believe that, like, I've heard of like Brilliant and, you know, like a lot of the films, and I'm like, oh yeah, these are my faves, these are my faves. But then, like, is it somebody, Chantal Ackerman, a Belgian filmmaker? I'm gonna get, like, I can't wait to like dive into her, because she seems really great. All the colours and the subjects, and just like the way that she set the frames up, I'm like, oh my god, I need to like know her, all her stuff. So yeah, I'm thankful for that as well. I haven't seen the second part. I've only seen part 1 and part 4, but I don't think it matters, because it seems to be like something that you can, it's a bit like a pick and mix thing. You can dip in and, you know, what you want, and then go back later and have a nibble of, you know, something else.
Exactly. Right, Debs, thank you, love. We're going to bring it back to the end.
Okay, I'll see you in a bit.
Thank you. So, welcoming Jeanie Finlay next. Jeanie.
Hello.
Jeanie from Nottingham. Welcome, Jeanie. So, hopefully everyone saw SEAHORSE, and you've done lots of other amazing films. So let's plug all of those, Jeanie.
I've made my 8th feature. So just prior to that, I spent a year embedded on the set of Game of Thrones and made an observational documentary. Weirdly, made both films at the same time, so they're small stories intimately told, but The Last Watch was made on the largest TV stage in the world. And yeah, they're all on my website, jeaniefinlay.com. And actually, to be a blatant plug, I've got a retrospective starting at the Museum of Moving Image in New York on Friday of all of my films.
Wow.
I'm thrilled about, because this is one of the things that I think is really important for women filmmakers, is that you're celebrated for making great work, not just because you're a lady picking up a camera.
And also while you're alive, like, it just so often happens when you're dead.
Yeah, still here, still alive. So I'm talking about the work, and SEAHORSE comes out in the US on, well, it launches at MOMI on Friday, and then it comes out generally in 2 weeks. So yeah, but I've made lots of films about goths and Joker, great hip hop hoax, and
Ryan, love that one.
Sharp in my hometown, Orion, the Man Who Would Be King. So they're usually, I describe my films as small stories about shy people talking quietly, but shown on a big screen.
Lovely.
Yeah.
So Jeanie, how did you feel watching women make film as a director, particularly?
Well, I went on a bit of a strange journey with this. Making SEAHORSE, I thought a lot about being a cis woman making a film about a trans guy. And so I had obvious sort of questions at the beginning of this, like, why hasn't a woman made this film? Could a woman get a 14-hour film commissioned? And should Mark Cousins have co-directed? But I mean, within about 10 minutes, I was just watching. I was just like totally enthralled. And I think the thing for me that just completely won me over was the variety, the spotlight, and the sort of potential to explode the canon in a really exciting way. Because, like, for me, I'm a massive Powell and Pressburger film. Like, Black Narcissus is one of my favorite films, and I've seen clips of what's it called, I, Worst of All, by Maria Luisa Bemberg, Argentinian film made in 1990, that looked like it could have been cut from the same cloth of Black Narcissus. And I'm like, well, why don't I know about this film? Yeah. I'm based at Broadway Cinema in Nottingham. I go to the cinema all the time. I didn't go to film school. I make it up. And I think what it did for me was just really explode the idea of possibilities out there. And it made me hopeful about exploding a wider canon, because the way that I feel as a director is, you know, I make documentaries generally, and they can be easier to get away. So I can get a lot of momentum and energy behind a film, get a film into production, and I'm never really conscious of any. I'm most aware of being a female director when it comes to taking my film on the road, whether that's the questions that I get asked by audiences about how my film would be different if I was a man. Do my boobs get in the way when I hold a camera? You know, ridiculous things. Does my child miss her mummy when she's not there? And it's like, ask my husband. This isn't a gender thing. So, you know, I think about that when I'm out on the road. But in the wider context, I think about the canon when I see just casual conversations on Twitter. Can you recommend a film? And you'll see a thread of like 200 replies, and every single one is a man. You know, it's a sausage fest. And that is the thing that I want to be disrupted. It's I want general discussion to have women filmmakers just at their fingertips. And I think the thing for me that for watching it really reinforced for me was, I'm going to slightly disagree with Deborah here. I thought it was really varied. I thought there was no unifying eye. It just seemed like, wow, it's so varied. It's so different. And because a lot of the discussions around films made by women are, well, you've all got, you know, there's a similar eye, isn't there? And discussions like that seem like asking writers, if you all gave them a pen, would they have the same handwriting? It's ridiculous. You know, we all bring different intersectional backgrounds to our filmmaking, and that permeates every frame about the stories you want to tell. Do you know what I mean? There's infinite possibilities, and I guess watching women make film really reinforced that for me, that there are many stories that have been told and to tell in a really exciting way.
I think you're also right when you're talking about writing, and you think about how accessible novels are to us, and novels by women. And, you know, we may have needed the Orange Prize, but less and less. It's just, there are books by people. And yet that's still a stage that we're cracking through in film. And me and I have been talking about that. And it's so much about the gatekeepers, and it's the gatekeepers on Twitter, and it's the gatekeepers in cinemas and, you know, online. And that's really, I think that's really important. As for Mark Cousins, I interviewed him about this film for The Guardian, and he'd basically gone around the world doing the story of film, which was about women, male and female directors, but he was so aware it was mostly about male directors. But he'd opened all these doors, and so everywhere he went, in Albania or wherever, he said, who are your great women directors? Who should I see? So he had already made this kind of grids around the world to access things. So in a sense, you know, only he could have made it because he'd already done 5 years' work on the previous film. He didn't get any money. No one would finance this. Surprise, surprise. The production company in Glasgow did back him because they backed him for previous things. It has sold in lots and lots of countries, and there's lots of retrospectives, you know. So he's an ally, I think, for women very much.
I think he really is, and I hope that people don't let the fact that he's a male director get in the way of them diving into this, because there's so much to enjoy and to learn and to share from watching it. I think, like, I've got similarly, I went onto when I discovered that you can go through all the scenes on the website, I was like writing stuff down. And if there can be wider distribution for the films that are featured, that's the dream, isn't it? You just want it to be 2 clicks and you're there and you can watch it. That's what, you know, that's what's so important in making films remain in the canon and remain in people's minds.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good point. And, you know, that's something that we really want to work on massively, you know, making it easy for people to see the movies. Because, you know, then a lot of them are not easy to see or impossible to see. And even some of the famous ones, like I mentioned, Jane Campion, and you just think, that's bizarre. How can we not see Jane Campion's early work? You know, and then there's all kinds of complications around, you know, who decides what classics are, you know, is she suffered from that, you know, like the rights have just expired, someone's just, you know, or no one's paying attention to it.
Yeah, and it's such a shame because people, I feel like I can reflect on my own work. People don't like watch one film and then they watch the next film you make. What usually happens is they watch your most recent films and then they dive in retrospectively and join the dots up. And if you don't retain the rights, or you don't have a hand in the distribution of your own work, then it's really hard to do that. Luckily, I've been on that, but it's a lot of work to like keep on top of all your rights.
Yeah, it's a really good point as well. And we worked on the Alice Guy Blaché film, Be Natural, and you know that was kind of this. And of course, she's in Women Make Film, several of her movies, a lot of her movies actually, 6 I think. And the big thing was that all of her male counterparts at the time preserved their work, and she didn't, or she lost the rights, and that's been a massive part of it. And it's really interesting that she just didn't think to archive and retain rights. And so that's a massively important thing that you're doing, Jeanie, to retain the rights to your work.
Yeah, it's me with music clearances, it's a nightmare, but I have a very lovely music supervisor who helps me. But it's a whole thing. It means like it's really important for me to always be a producer or a co-producer on my own work, because it means I can keep the promises I make, but also I can, protect my babies for the future so they can still be seen.
Yes. Okay, wonderful, Jeanie. Okay, stay there and we're going to bring Tinge and Deborah back. Kate, I'm going to ask you to kick the first question. Are they waving each other? That's not.
I'm excited.
Yeah, it's really exciting.
What do you think? I'd quite like. I hate to ask you all the COVID question, but what do you think this is going to do to filmmaking, and what will we see in 10 years' time? Because systems will crash, and obviously wonderful films are going to fail, but other things will rise up. What do you feel is in the air now over the next 10 years as women filmmakers and as filmmakers? Guys?
Oh, I've been editing all day. I'm editing remote. My editor, Alice, is in Streatham. So I've been watching her. It's just like this. I've been watching her screen all day. Yeah. But, I was supposed to be filming in America right now. And I left a camera. I was so optimistic I was going back. I left a camera there. So what I've done is taught the woman I'm making a film about to use the camera. So she's doing the camera with me directly in Nottingham, and I was supposed to film a model in Los Angeles, and I've actually found someone in Bulwell. So we're going to shoot him next week in a socially distanced way. But I think it's going to take a lot. I fear for young filmmakers, because I sort of feel like if you have a more established career, you're able to convince a financier that it's going to be okay and you'll find a creative solution. But I do worry for younger filmmakers who may not have had, they may have just been about to explode a film at a festival. I don't know what you guys think.
I'm more worried about who wrote that article. I saw an article somewhere saying that like COVID is going to set women back 50 years in general. So that means 50 plus like years for filmmakers, because I think we're kind of still behind general women. So that really worried me. So I've been having a little worry about that. But really, I've been feeling excited for what the future is going to bring, because I think people have been indoors so much and isolating that it must have been good for our subconsciouses. So hopefully that means that there's going to be more exciting stuff come away. But I don't know. It'd be nice to have be a psychic, wouldn't it, and see what it means.
I mean, I feel like we're on the cusp of a huge amount of change, and that's not just COVID anymore. That's like I think there's a big transformation being called for in terms of prejudice and what what minority groups have been facing. And I think our relationship to leadership, having narcissists, having people with psychopathic tendencies, kind of going for, as a tending to go for people who are peddling the snake oil of, simple solutions to complex problems. I think there's a big shift that's going to happen. And it's timely because we've got some big complex issues with climate change and stuff coming up. So I think this is almost just a dry run for some of the really big things we've got to engage with.
Yeah.
Can I ask you all to, let's step back into women make films. So can I ask you all to share, who were, if you haven't mentioned someone who you were really happy to discover. Actually, Debs, you did mention Ackerman. I just can't believe that I had never heard of this woman, Helga Saunders-Brahms, who did. She's the director of Germany, Pale Mother. Helga Saunders-Brahms, amazing. I just can't believe that I'd never heard of that. You can see that movie. It's the best war movie I've ever seen. Concur. Yes, you can see it on BFI Player. It's just staggering, and it's so groundbreaking as well. The kind of fiction part walks to archive. I mean, this is like 1981. People are just sort of doing that now recently in documentary, but she was doing it 30 years ago. I mean, it's just staggering, the mix of archive and her own fictionalized thread. And it's just stunning. So I'd love to hear from all of you, like who are you excited to delve into more?
Do you know what? I want to get into somebody called, and I don't know how to say it, Pyro Honka Salo.
Yeah.
Who did a film called BETORONIYO. I've been trying to find it everywhere and you can't get it in this country. Right. But it was amazing. Like at the beginning, like they showed a clip and like this huge bridge just like collapsed. It was really massively ambitious. Yes. And really what I meant earlier was not that like everything feels the same, but everything feels not alienated. I think that they're hugely diverse and different, and that's what's exciting. But this one for that just that ambitious thing, I want to see it, but I can't. I'd be interested to know what the 26 films are on BFI Player.
That's a good mix. Jeanie.
Well, I talked about her earlier. It's this Argentinian director, Maria Luisa Bemberg. I think this photo of her looking particularly fierce with a massive camera is pretty amazing. I just love the clip that I saw of I Worst of All. Just looked like muscular, ambitious, choreographed filmmaking that was absolutely maximalist, and I was completely here for it. I loved the look of it, and all I want to do was inject it into my eyes. I want to find that a really and inject it.
Which one, Jeanie?
I Worst of All. It's about nuns. It's like the choreographed nun sequence.
Down the stairs.
Oh yeah, that was beautiful.
I watched that and I was just like, I need to see this, and yeah. And I also watched After Dark, the Catherine Bigelow film, which I'd never seen.
Yeah, it's great, isn't it?
I'd never seen that, and it's a total banger. It's such a banger. What a filmmaker! She's amazing. Yeah,
it's funny.
In and watch more.
Yeah. I watched that Thumbelina as well, and that was on BFI Player.
Oh, did you?
Oh God, I loved it so much. I watched it 3 times. Also, like modern and just contemporary and just the beautiful. I really like a poster of it. If somebody wants to get me one.
Tinge, who did you want to lift up?
Yeah, I think who did I want to lift up? Because what I did was, because I've got ADHD, so I took photos, I took film stills, because I obviously misunderstood brief, and I took these film stills. There we go. Of just trying to get it there. Yep. It's the hanging scene.
Oh my God.
It was just so good. So good. And I just yeah, just that nuance of emotion that's there, and that gets communicated, and the craft and the skill of it. And then there was also this one, which was the one where the lady's washing up. Just trying to do that. So she's washing up, and basically everything's happening. Her husband is dying in the background, and you can just hear the sound of him dying.
Yes.
And she's washing up. Just, yeah. I mean, on a craft, you know, just on a craft level, it was also mind blowing, you know. But just that, you know, and yeah. Sorry, I could just, yeah. I'm not very coherent right now, but so and actually, what Kate was saying about seeing Catherine Bigelow in a new light, and you going out to search for After Dark, I felt somehow I experienced the filmmakers in a different way, and I don't know what that was about. And I think it's probably some perceptual bias on my part. But when they were all together as a group, and I stopped thinking about being aware that anyone was a woman or whatever, it was just people making films, and I was like, Bigelow's a don. She's a maestro, you know. It was like that, you know, like that scene you were talking about, that gas station scene. You know, it's not just, it's the level of authenticity she brings, you know. You know, that shot where the guy's got his flamethrower, that emotion, it's the emotion as well that you see in his eyes. And now, if you're on set and you've got people doing pyrotechnics and it's all kicking off, to be able to take the time and focus to make sure that guy is fully in the zone of looking like he might actually kill someone, you know, it's that extra level of pushing it. And she did that with Hurt Locker as well. The level of authenticity and detail is really high. It's really properly masterful filmmaking. And you know, when you say mistress filmmaking, because I had that thought when I was watching it, and I was like, why I had an innate constriction about going mistress filmmaking, and it's because of all the baggage the word mistress has, you know, dominatrix, a woman who wants to be with a man but isn't the main woman. Do you know what I mean? There's all these weird versions of that word, and mistress doesn't have the power. It's the same way that, you know, because it's magician energy, right? Being a filmmaker is archetypally, it's magician energy, and historically, men are allowed to hold magician energy. They're allowed to hold wizard energy, and when women hold it, we're witches. You know, we're messed up, we're fucked up, we're difficult, we're strange. Do you know what I mean? And when I saw Yulia Solisnera, you know, and she's on the cover of the Women Make Films, she's got these mad starry eyes, and I have that in common. And as a woman, I've always felt really ashamed of it, like I'm this mad woman that I go in. But if a mad guy goes into pitch, everyone's like, wow, mad genius guy. But if you're a woman and you go in with mad starry eyes, you're just like a mad woman who's going to derail the ship, and you can't do flamethrower scenes. You have to, you know, and I do judge that Bigelow does do a little bit of the James Cameron, you know, you have to wear the caps and the aviators and assume a certain percent, and this is just pure projection, it's just a fantasy of mine. But you know, I feel that
Tinge, yeah, I feel like I saw some of them a bit differently, because I wasn't watching the trailers or seeing the poster or seeing pull quotes. I was just watching the films.
Yeah.
Seeing all the marketing puff. If it was films that you already knew, it was an opportunity to look at it slightly differently, as well as like all the new stuff. I thought that was really interesting, because I had the exact same experience with Catherine. That's why I went and watched After Dark.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I need to see that.
Yeah, I felt that. I felt a need to see films by filmmakers that I've heard of, but I haven't had this. Now I've got a hunger. I like have to see them. I have to see them.
There's a great comment actually from Annabelle Grundy, who we know, who's in Sheffield. Annabelle, hello. Thank you. She said, I love what F-Rated did a couple of years ago with a mass effort to update IMDb. Which was to make sure that you could then, when you're searching on IMDb, know what films were by women. So it was an easy kind of sorting mechanism. And she said, I wonder if there's an extension of that where people add to a library, even if it's just saying they have a copy, not necessarily copying or preserving. I mean, it's a great point, right? Jeanie, you picked up on that earlier. Like, even your shorts, actually picking this up as well. Gemma Whitehead, Tinge, just said, about accessing lost films. Like she's got a VHS copy of your film Groove on Stanley Knife. She still has it, but no one else has got any means of seeing it. So again, like all of you, like Debs, you gave me links to your thoughts. Like, you know, even how you preserve your work and make it accessible is like, it's a challenge.
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah, it's a good thought.
What do we do about it? Kate?
You were the expert on I mean, I think it'd be just fantastic if we could have a website or indeed an institution or an online institution where we put it all together. And, you know, maybe one day there'll be the money to really curate on a massive scale. And I don't think we should be unambitious about any of that, because everything we sort of risk doing seems to come off. So why not the next thing and the next thing? Mm-hmm. Even doing stuff like this online, we've suddenly realized, you know, we're talking to, you know, Laura Mulvey in the end was talking to 10,000 people, and it would have been 300 people in a cinema in London. And suddenly we've got this reach, and we were reaching people in America or wherever, all around the world. And so there's nothing wrong with being ambitious about this at all, I don't think. We've got time to think.
Yeah. Jeanie?
I was just going to say the BFI have just taken all of my films to go into their archive. So there's a conversation to be had with people like the BFI to make sure that you're written into history as a filmmaker while you're still alive or while you're making work. So what are the I'm not sure how that came about, why I was approached. So I guess it would be great if you know, Reclaim the Frame could partner with BFI to make sure that that's active and proactive.
Yeah, actually, we've got a shout out from Melissa Silverstein, who we love collaborating with, who runs Women in Hollywood. She said you can use Women in Hollywood for anything you need. And again, so that's a US ally. Again, like these networks, you know, we're talking about global access as well, you know, not just UK. So thank you, Melissa.
Yeah, I mean, it would be a bit of a no-brainer. That's amazing, that offer. I mean, it would be a bit of a no-brainer for the BFI, for like every filmmaker they have, just to put all their shorts up maybe and keep a lot, you know, they could do at their archive right now. And they could pay us just the costs, help us, support us on the costs to do that.
Yeah, like Deb, so your films aren't all in one place, are they? All your shorts? You've got
I did have them all on Vimeo, but then I couldn't afford to keep them all there, so they're knotted around wherever I can fit them in for free. And yeah, it's a bit annoying, really. But so, can I ask a question?
Yeah, go for it.
Why did Mark Cousins give you any feedback about why he had to work so long for free? Because that seems to be like a lot of our stories. We have to work free for so long before we, you know, get the funding or whatever. And was that because it was women's films? What was the story behind that?
I think he said he thought if it had been a 2-hour film, it would have got funding, but it was the mad ambition of the 14-hour film. And so he just decided he had to make it. And, you know, they Hopscotch in Glasgow just financed it as much as they could, and financed some researchers as well. And that's how they managed it. So people were not rushing to take this at all. On the other hand, it turns out, you know, that the international sales on this film are great. So it shows you people have no idea, you know.
And what about the national? Has it been, you know, because sometimes you get the impression that people in other countries are more open to women's films than other countries.
It's a very good point, actually, Debs, because Mark was saying when we spoke to him, Kate, that, for instance, Turner Classic Movies in the US have bought 100 films and are putting them on TCM, that all of which are connected to the series. No one else has done that, you know, here, for instance. It's not happened here. But, you know, so they're making this huge big deal about not just showing women make film, but also making the films accessible to, and that's a big audience, that's a big mainstream platform. So yeah, it's really interesting how, you know, not everyone's even reacting the same way. You know, like, why aren't the BBC doing that here? This film.
I think the BBC are in negotiations, but we don't know what's happening. BBC Three, I think. So
Right.
it might, we might have that on telly and on iPlayer.
Right.
With widen the audience. Yeah.
But they're not going to show 100 of the films in it, for instance. I bet.
Yeah.
You know, and yeah. So again, it's like, it's about access, isn't it? It's like, that's that's why we do what we do. That's why we stopped being a film festival and started doing this year round, which is being a positive disruption in the distribution space, because otherwise, you know, people don't know where to see the films, or the films do not get seen. Like Tinge, you know, it was amazing for you to have a deal with Netflix for your film, but it really meant something to be able to screen it in cinemas, right?
100%. Yeah, totally. And I think that's where, like, distribution, there's an overlap between distribution and how things get distributed and how filmmakers make films. So, you know, it has an impact on the creative nature of the art as well, the access to distribution and the method of it. And so having supportive distribution platforms actually, you know, enhances the creative output of groups who are supported.
Yeah, because if you don't make a big impact with a film, then you're not.
Mia, hi, yeah, Cesar Jently. How you doing, Mia?
Hi, Cesar.
How are you doing? You okay?
Yeah, we were just having a great chat there, and
fantastic. Yeah. Great. No, I'll be 5 seconds. Don't worry. You can get back to your stuff in a sec. I just thought it was important for me to call and let you know how great I'm feeling. I know you've been worried about me in the last few months, Mia, and if I'm honest, I've been worried about me, but then along came Women Make Film. Am I right? Isn't it incredible? Isn't it incredible, Mia? You know, I mean, I'm just feeling like so inspired. I'm learning so much. Hey, I'm driving here. Sorry.
Where are you?
So much. I'm feeling so inspired, and you know, I just think it's fantastic that Mark has made one for the ladies now. You know, because obviously, you know, back in 2011, he made the History of Film, an Odyssey. You know, 15-hour long documentary all about film, and that one was like the normal one, you know, for everybody to watch. But now this is like, you know, this is the lady special one. But yeah, and you know, Mia, you know, actually, between you and I, like, totally off the record, I think Mark was anticipating potentially some, you know, some heavy criticism from the feminists, but turns out they love it, of course, because it's freaking good, and because some of them are lazy. You know, they want us to help out a little bit. You know, feminism needs it's Mark Cousins' and I'm just gonna go out there and say it, Mia. Feminism needs its Cesar Jently's. I can't tell you how psyched I was when I got the call for this job. I mean, Tilda Swinton is not who called me, obviously, but you know, Tilda Swinton's assistant's daughter calls me up and says, Cesar, we need you. Yeah, I'm sitting there in my boxer shorts. Actually, I'm gonna pull over 1 sec. I'm gonna just want to focus on this. I'm sitting there. I mean, you know, I'm a performer, Mia, as you know. I haven't worked in a couple of months now. I mean, financially, that's not a problem for me. Obviously, with everyone working from home, my pornography royalties are flooding in, literally just ejaculate and cash flowing in rivers. And, you know, people are actually asking me to make new online stuff as well. But, you know me, Mia, I have very high standards. You know, I'm not going to sell myself out for some, like, low budget, low tech, 5-minute online gigs. But anyway, you know, so anyway, I'm feeling a little despondent. I've been unemployed out of choice for a couple of months. I'm just sitting around in my boxer shorts, drinking my matcha latte, and I get the call. And this young woman tells me, Tilda Swinton has lost her driving glove. And yeah, she's been making this incredibly epic documentary called Women Make Film, which obviously I've never heard of. But she's been driving all over the world, and she gets home and she realizes she's only wearing one glove. I mean, classic Tilda. I've heard she's wild. What? Oh, sorry. Yeah, one sec. Sorry, one sec. Okay. So anyway, so I go to the car rental depot. I sign the death waiver form, and they give me the keys. And get this, Mia. Tilda sends across the right glove, the other glove, you know, for them to leave on the seat so that I'll know what the left glove looks like so that I can find it. And, you know, I'm not sure that I was actually supposed to put on Tilda frickin' Swinton's right driving glove, but I'm driving pretty fast here, so I consider it a safety measure, you know? But yeah, that's it, Mia. That's me. That's the update. I'm doing great. No sightings of the left glove as of yet. But yeah, I feel good. You know, I've been watching Women Make Film every night in my motels, and I'm realizing that, you know, in my small but crucial role as post-production glove handler, I am a part of something incredible here. And you know, I mean, it's not a movie. You know, they build it as a road movie. I mean, 14 hours is not a movie, Mark, but it is incredible. And I just can't wait until the world becomes a place where people throw parties again. Because I am going to go to every single party, and I'm going to use my lady film knowledge to be absolutely irresistible, Mia. Seriously, I've been practicing on the road, and I mean, actually, did you know what? I've been practicing by myself, which is great, but I can't really tell if I'm like hitting the spots, and I haven't spoken to anyone in a couple of weeks. I wonder, would you do a little role play with me, Mia? You want to play? You want to test my film knowledge?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, you do it? Okay, great. Okay. So we're at a party. It's like the olden days. It's busy. We know each other. We've met before, but we're not close. And we bump into each other. What do you say?
Hi.
Oh, wow. Mia, is it? Sorry, it's been so long. Yeah, I haven't been out in so long. You know, I've been catching up on a lot of great underseen film by women movie makers. I mean, you know how it is. Feminism. You ask me?
Am I still role playing? Do you want to get a drink?
What? Do I want to? Did you say do I want to get a drink? Sorry. I mean, no, it's not funny. It's just that really reminds me of Kate Shortland's 2012 World War II movie Lore. I'm sure you've seen it, but there's this scene where Lore she gives away her brooch to a stranger in exchange for the stranger, this older woman, breastfeeding Lore's baby brother. And I guess what I'm saying is that that baby must be really thirsty. As am I. So yeah, I'd love to get a drink, Mia. I would love to. That'd be great. How was that? Was that good? Was it sexy?
I think it might need some work, Cesar.
Oh, okay, that's fine. Let me do another one. Oh wait, hang on. I've got there's a light on. They've got some kind of warning light on. What is that? Sorry, there's a condom wrapper in the way. Oh, it's okay. I just got low gas. That's fine. Okay, give me another one, Mia. We're at the party. Ask me a question. Any question?
Hey, you ask a question.
Oh, okay.
What are you wearing?
What am I wearing?
Yeah.
I'm wearing a pretty impressive outfit right now. I was supposed to return something at the end of a job I did back in lockdown, but I managed to keep hold of it. And yeah, I'm wearing something very skimpy. It's got kind of like holes all over it. You know, I like to show a bit of flesh because, you know, that's what feminism is really, is, you know, whatever the ladies do, the men's do. That's my kind of feminism anyway. We all got our own kind. But yeah, this is also removes by strap. Pretty great. And actually, oh my God, do you know what? That reminds me of Mary Harron's 2000 film version of American Psycho. You know the bit where Patrick Bateman is he's murdering his fellow businessmen with a chrome axe to a pop song, and it's really fun. And oh wait, one sec. There's something in the road up ahead. What? Yeah, stay on the line a sec, Mia, would you?
Okay.
I'm not gonna do that thing. You know the thing they do in the movies where they're like, "I'll call you back." Yeah, right. It's fine. Okay, I've got some pepper spray in here. I'm sure it's totally. What is that? Oh my God!
Wow. Okay. I think we've lost Cesar. Maybe someone needs to go check on him. Anyway, Kate.
That was mad.
That was Cesar Jently. We will be hearing from Cesar Jently in our next few sessions. But thank you to Cesar for reporting from the road there. Yep, that was quite mad. So we should wrap up. I'm just going to read something. Actually, Louise Wadley has said hello to Deborah from Louise at HBFF. I think that's Hebden Bridge Film Festival, I think. Pincushion is still being talked about by our audience. Love this session, and especially Tinge talking about the craft. Want to have this emphasis as a filmmaker as well as a film festival. It's so important to have the lexicon of women's work laid out and to hear them talk about their craft. And yes, make sure we get access to the back catalogue so we can discover it. When we discover a filmmaker, we can go back and view their work and their evolution. A woman to that. Okay, anything else to add?
No, just looking forward to part 3 next week and getting into that and rewatching. It was really, you can watch them again and again and still get more out of them each time. So yep. Yeah.
I agree. Okay, so we'll be back. So thank you very much to Kate, to Tinge, to Deborah and to Jeanie. Please watch all of their movies. We'll make it easy for you. We'll post in the chat actually links to see all of their work. And BFI Player or Blu-ray Women Make Film is available. The 3rd just dropped on Monday, and then there are 2 more parts to follow. And then, yeah, please keep following us. We'll share with all our allies how you then see the movies. So thank you to everyone. Thank you to Mark Cousins for the work, and we'll be back. Thank you.